So again, I'm going to make another 2 video for this psychology and mathematics department, because again, one day I'd like to be a direct physics teacher or a psychologist. They go so closely together for me that they're the laws of motion. You know, you have an internal force, and this stone dock, and this equation, and this model of how we talk about it. An object is either in constant motion or it's at rest. And in quantum mechanics, it's a bit of both. And if you understand anything about the readings of where we're positioned with it today, and the thesis I'm working for, psychology and quantum mechanics and things like that, something I'd like to pursue later in life, is again, you're still going to need that stone dock. You're still going to need that carpentry factor. You're still going to need some very specialized point. And it doesn't matter where that point is. It's universally to everything all at once in 2 places at once, given the very specific order you give it, the command directive to explain it or to generalize it. But again, that's always in content. You're talking psychology, it's going to carry in with psychology, and you start to lose the mathematics a little bit until you start to determine those to be a new term. So we use masonry. I do anyways. Being a mason, being somebody who's telepathic or telekinesis, using a direct physics, or excuse me, direct physics order form as a boss to lay out your daily aspect of what you're doing at that company. The command directive is telling those 4 crew guys to pick up boards with your mind, is what you're telling them to do. Sometimes you give them a little bit because they're generals of this skill, smaller sections of it. Maybe they haven't got there yet. Maybe they are, or there's some aspect in life that doesn't always carry through with it. Some things are at rest in these ideas. But also in the way that you're telepathic. You know when somebody's lying. You can read it all on their face equation, their face of A mechanics, of a causal speed, C squared, general relativity, energies. When you understand the order of things, why didn't the product get done, Murphy? And everything's checklist, and only thing that they can tell you is, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. The only thing common about common sense is the lacking of it again. And I use a lot of mathematics for this. It's hard to position the exact alphabet other than B, A, G. A mechanics to the B positions, and these small positions make you a general over them because there are small segments. Every day, somebody does this. I've had 80 people in this position. You are the only one. And again, it's not that you have to weigh on somebody like that. You got to do it properly. There is an anthrope to everything with these string theory mechanics and how you grid out all these calculations. Is it going to be really effective? Can I, again, just like knowing the future. All right, when you know the order of events, you might not be able to micromanage it all the way to the G level, right? But you can go to the point where, short of the hurricane that changes the rainstorm for a landscaper's bid, I know how fast that this is going to get done. And that's like knowing the future. And when you know your month, your week, your year, again, it starts to fall away. And just like the mathematics does, programming all these super algorithms and things like that, when you're looking for this one theory of everything, actually condenses down to an equation like this. When the reality is a company like this, and you're just dealing with the rotational force of a saw, of the amps, or the Ohm's law. And it's really hard to position physically, using elementary physics, the exact order of those kinds of things, because Ohm's law here, there's a certain amount of amps, or resistance, or joules, force, just by how much air pressure I am. And general relativity will agree with me that I could, as a teacher, make you determine how much joules of energy, or amps, or if you could create a machine by trigonometry and the Pythagorean theorem, ABC, how much theoretical energy is created by terms of joules, or work, or something like that, because my heart's going. Over a time system of acceleration is d over t, or d over seconds, distance per seconds over distance of total time. Again, those frames inside of smaller frames. And again, there is no real A, B, except for the Big Bang, depending on who you listen to, is a string theorist. Watch YouTube, read a book, or a stone company. All they tell you is that you need a fluid geometry to determine what that is in practical speaking. And a stone a company, is a great way to go about doing this. That is a very practical applied physics model where we're just changing out the algorithms. Instead of being force and velocity, we're turning those inventories that a gantry saw that again turn into common sense. Why does the thing have to be clean every day? Because the law of diminishing exchange is going to come up. Resistance is equal to the force, and everything we put into this has a timeline that affects over here with geodesics, if you will. That this straight line and this point, you drop a photon through the Earth or you let one travel around, will meet at the same point in time. Space-time, PBS. That's where I got that one from. And they really do talk about general relativity, Higgs energies, things like that, by determining, the forces, the frames of references, the behavior of elements next to each other. This person next to this saw will change the elements that it created. Time systems, specific numbers, how many, the checklist doesn't change or the inventory doesn't change, but because it's this guy that does better, I need to buy more equipment. I need to buy more sandpaper, or go buy a gantry, or have my gantry drill or gantry saw blade replaced more frequently or less frequently. And if you generalize that on a timeline or cost for a month and you don't get that right, or just use the observational irrational number, smaller frames, to determine, well, I can hold that off, make the phone call, sum this up a little bit more practically, using a solution to that problem. And a solution is nothing more than an inverted equation, same change, flip of a different form. I've taken a long time to study a lot of this material, find a way to find it practical, and again, needing my own business plan to do a lot of this material. I come in ready for it, just like I have my business plan, so that when the boss comes over to me, this equipment, I can just explain to him, this is where I am, these are all my rational numbers in the proper order. Yep, instead of add this to it or do something that would be not the common model, or something that would be already generalized in the group. It happens, or something that needs to inject into the system to better translate other informations, because the electron shell is actually one atom in a raindrop, or the total mass of the electron shell, or the electron traveling around the atom, the size of a raindrop, is actually the size of Manhattan. Alright, and you have to understand principles like that. It's not that I use them here. I certainly don't want you to think that takes away from my labor skills, because I got the six-pack, and that's a very important small piece when you think about the total numbers that go into what make this what it is, this face equation. A mechanics, A equals face. The face of a G. General, or whatever you want it to be. I use generals. Little small. It could be crazy, How far on the extremes do you take those voices? Is the psychology point of view. For me, physics. Why am I hearing that in this voice, or that guy saying this, and I could later look right at it and out of nowhere be really, really freaking close. Bosses, pay, this, that, you can get it wrong real easy. So it's good to just make sure you're laying out the numbers. Make sure you're really taking the time to check, double check, triple check in the same timeline. Know what's common, know what would be on the aspect of something that's special that should be common. So you're doing a new product, so you got a new guy, something happened somewhere else. So you have to be ready for it. And again, this is way more than the workplace. Again, just the better your home life is, how you do doctor's appointments and set them up, and you know a month ahead of time, so you tell your boss a month ahead of time. that's what's happening, you can plan for that. You let off the crew a little bit more because you know you've got a doctor's appointment, so they're not going to come in today. So they're not so offbeat if it's within the realities that you can handle. Or setting up that manager, setting up your daily command directive for that day because you're not going to be there, and letting the crew go off and do that on their own. I mean, a lot of that stuff comes in. There really isn't, again, I wish I could say it's trainable. I'll tell you that much. Uh, Little pieces I picked up along the way, just as much as I give a little bit away here and there. You just need to tell that crew guy something. I'd love to be getting paid for it, but I need that job to be done just as much as you do, because if you don't do it, I'm gonna be doing it. Shoveling dirt, when I'm supposed to be running a machine. To me it doesn't matter. It's not like I'd rather run a machine. Usually when you're getting paid what it is, the difference between commissions and quotes on jobs. It's laborsome when you're working for a company and you have to do that every single time. You just kind of generalize it. Here, let's get this done, and salaries and are what they are, and that gives it a certain value to those elements of the atomic weights and the atomic masses that universes colliding into each other. And I'm just wording it like this here for sure, General Mason's concept, but it's psychology, it's mathematics, it's physics, it's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I use erodes, abruptly long sequence of reciprocating, in algebra, an abruptly long sequence of reciprocating terms. I don't know how long this definition is, or why I have to make one specifically as long as I do in this directive. And that has to do with Fermat's last theorem, ax plus bx equals cx. In this conversation, given the notes in this general form, you're a general, or I knew you're a rookie, or the ax plus by equals cz. I'm going ax, these single points, x points on a y system that really, in 3 dimensions, 5 dimensions, 1 dimensions, it's all binary really. Ones and zeros stacked up to spell A on code. A substitution transposition system of determining B positions Y. I know that the name to the concept, our name is AX, BY is also BX, but in this case, BY, more specialized, more than a version that exists that is less specialized or has less number of calculations, sine and cosine, or positive and negative numbers, where you're just smashing forms together in universes and hoping it all sticks together in one form that you could say, yep. And so again, I want to specify this. A lot of theoretical stuff here. Some things you can prove, some things you can't prove, some things you might have tried and had a bit of, but it still goes back down to being the ruler, being a general, measuring stuff out. Sometimes the carrot and the wrench. Some people say it's the stick, and that stick can be a wrench to the boss on the other side of that inversion of by. You don't understand these calculations correctly, and you go saying things the wrong way. It can be one of those things that you have to be very careful with. As a general rule of thumb, bring it out. There's no reason not to teach somebody something. If you make them guess for it, you failed as a general. Remember, you're in charge of this. The goal, Sun Tzu, is you have to train your general. You're not going to be around here forever. You're not going to be able to do every one of these positions at once. And if you don't train this information, if you don't specify this information, you're just hurting yourself later in the long run. So again, things that may seem very crazy can be very practical. Things that, at the very practical level, the stone dock can be some of the highest, most in-depth mathematics and psychology that we understand to date. Even at the level of the Hadron Collider. Again, they're dealing with elements that they break down theoretically. And then they're saying, well, I can't figure out how it works on the freaking stone dock. And we start with the stone dock, turn those pieces into elements that don't really say hydrogen, nitrogen, things like that. But in the real world, the diversified inconsistency, the the laying out a fluid system of general relativity with all its special coordination points, positive and negative. Catch you on the next one.